Video is just a great way to tell stories. Uh, we see video all the time. We're not always conscious of it, but we watch television, we watch movies. But what has happened recently is it's easier for people to produce their own videos. You're certainly aware of things like YouTube, where people put their own videos out on the web to tell their personal stories to the whole world if they want, because YouTube is available everywhere. Video tells stories, and we learn from stories. Sitting with grandmother on the back porch, and she's telling stories about her life and what things were like when she was young, or her own stories of what's going on in her life right now. Those become very important parts of who we are, because we learn from stories. We learn stories from people that we can relate to. What has happened is that it's easier for us to use video to do that, and to tell those stories, to tell things about ourselves. It doesn't depend on having great writing ability. It doesn't depend on our audience being able to read particularly well, because we're telling stories in a very natural way with people that you can identify with people who are in a context that you understand. If we're telling a story about growing food and urban agriculture, we can show that in the context of a city. We can show a farm, a garden, in an urban setting between two houses, which is a very different story from going out to a rural setting and shooting video in a cornfield where you can't see another house. You may be able to see the top of a silo. That sets agriculture as somewhere else. But by growing food in the city and showing video of growing food in the city, just in a lot between two houses, or in a lot where you just see a couple of crumbling houses perhaps, that puts it in a context that we understand. Like, I can see that. I can see we've got a place just like that in our neighborhood where we can grow food, and we can show that in video. I can certainly tell you about it just sitting on the back porch, but if you've got a video that shows somebody actually doing it, then people understand it. People get it. I can do that. Because if they can do it and they look like me, I can do it in my neighborhood. It's about identification with the people who are doing it, which helps us build a community around that. If you're showing a video that shows people that your audience understands, and they say, I'm like that, I can do it, then that builds a community around the agriculture. They can say, okay, let me go find that person, or find somebody like that person because they're around here. As I wander through my neighborhood, I see people with gardens. Let me talk to them and see what they had to do and tell their story. But the video communicates that really, really well. But why now is video so easy? Well, it wasn't so long ago that it took an army of people and tens of thousands of dollars worth of equipment to show video, to create video. Video's gotten very inexpensive. Inexpensive camcorders, and more so than the cost, what the skills necessary are they're approachable by anyone. We can buy inexpensive editing packages to run on our computers that are not really very difficult to use. We can tell our story, we can shoot it on these inexpensive cameras, edit it into a clear story using inexpensive, easy to use software, and upload it to YouTube or some other video sharing site, and everybody can see it. That's what's happened with video. It's become very easy for people to do, to tell their stories and get the word out about what they're doing that's important that other people need to see. So good luck with your shooting. We know that people learn through two channels of information. There's one channel is verbal information, words, and that can be conveyed by reading text or by listening to someone talking. So we have that verbal channel of communication. The other important channel is visual, and that's images. With video, we've got very powerful tools to combine the verbal content in the narration and the visual content by showing what it is that we want people to learn. This comes from research by a guy by the name of Alan Paivio, who is at University of Western Ontario, basically a neighbor of ours here in Detroit, who has done a lot of research on this dual channel encoding of verbal and images. We've also got a lot of work by a guy by the name of Richard Mayer. And Mayer builds on Paivio's research to show the value of using visual literacy and images along with the words as a way of helping people learn. That images are an extremely powerful way of communicating information. In the brain, we associate images with certain verbal content, and the more we get the image and the words together, build those associations, people learn very powerfully from the use of images and words together to build an association in the mind and build the context in which the new knowledge can be used, such as in our video where we'll have verbal content from somebody talking, and we'll also show images of what the person is talking about. So we get a very strong association between those two different kinds of content and the context in which that learning makes sense. Absolutely. I mean, I'd love for all of you to go to college and learn how to shoot video and do an internship, but it's not necessary to do that. Lots of people tell video stories every day with just a couple of hours or a couple of days of instruction and practice about how to learn to use video and how to use video to tell the story. Anybody can grab a camera out of a store and go shoot some video, but we can improve how you tell that story with a little bit of understanding of how people understand what they see in video, how we tell our story better. But it doesn't take years to learn that. You could learn it for years and get really, really very good at it. But for your purposes, a couple of days, and you'll be shooting wonderful, very useful videos that will tell your story to your audience.